Hello everyone, how's it going? Dr. Incompetent here, and I'd like to do a review now of Control Ultimate Edition. So, Control is a game that I have played through completely on PS5 on the channel, and I will put a link in the description below to my complete play of Control, also Alan Wake Remastered, Alan Wake's American Nightmare, my review of Alan Wake, and then I'm going to be doing Alan Wake 2 very soon too. So I thought, I never did a review of Control, and I just did a review of Alan Wake. Let's go back and talk about Control. In a funny way, I actually bounced off of Alan Wake and couldn't get into it because the combat thwarted me. And so I ended up playing Control for PS5 and absolutely fell in love with it. It was everything I wanted the combat to be before, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So what is Control? Control is a third-person action adventure that's steeped heavily in the supernatural. It's by Remedy, so it's Alan Wake adjacent, but you don't have to have played any Alan Wake to understand the game. In fact, I didn't, and I played most of it, and I just kind of sequestered the section of the game much later that deals with Alan Wake and left it and it was optional, so you didn't have to complete it to beat the game, so I wouldn't spoil Alan Wake. Think about if you were playing a game like Resident Evil, an over-the-shoulder shooter, except you started to get incredible supernatural powers. You begin the game, and it's like Alan Wake, shrouded in complete mystery. You're not sure what's going on, where you even are. And what I love about Control is that you really make progression in an RPG way where your character gets more and more abilities, more and more access, sort of like a, kind of Metroidvania with some of the exploration of, the house. But what happens is you get more and more powerful as you go. So you start out kind of, unsure of yourself, and by the end of the game, you're flying and telekinetically picking up, office equipment from all over and throwing it at things, and it just feels really, really good. So on Steam, the user-defined tags are action, supernatural, female protagonist, sci-fi. And these things are all true. It is like X-Files in that it's supernatural, it's sci-fi. You're in this very bureaucratic, nightmare, governmental organization, sprawling structure for the preponderance of the game. And yet you learn about things of an unbelievable quality, alien stuff, supernatural things, ghosts, everything, basically. Imagine a bureau, a governmental, division that handled all of the paranormal stuff. That's what you're dealing with. And the story is top-notch, and the control of Control, is fantastic. So that's the kind of game that you're getting into. I think there's a lot of play here, but you can beat it single player, play through it, enjoy it in maybe 30 or so hours, something like that. And now what I want to do is we're going to do two parts. I'm going to review the game and give it a letter grade based on criteria. And then in the second portion of the review, what I'm going to do is recommend whether or not I think you should play Control. This is meant to be non-spoilery. I'm not going to tell you anything about the story or reveal anything that would spoil your experience, but meant to help you, make a decision on whether or not you might want to purchase the game, and also just catalog my own thoughts so we can have a nice debate about what we think about Control in the comments. So the first thing I do in a review is I talk about whether or not the game is fun. Like, what's the fun factor of Control? Control is tremendously fun, and it stems, for me, in terms of its fun, by, Jessie's evolving power level. Like, she gets to be incredible, and it's just so much fun to navigate the world, to run around, to fly, to learn new powers, and upgrade the service weapon and other things, to just be a force to be reckoned with. Really the director of the Bureau. So I think that this is a very fun game. If you like third-person, shooting action games, this is definitely going to be fun for you. Now, what about the controls in the game? How does controlling the character go? Does it make sense? Is it intuitive? Is it frustrating? What do we think? So for me, I think the control system in Control is tremendous. It's so good. And I'm talking about my experience on PS5, by the way. The performance is so good, the control is so good that everything feels incredibly fluid and responsive. You can do so many different things: bring up a shield, levitate objects, throw objects, multiple objects, shoot your gun, fly. All of this stuff happens and happens seamlessly as you get into it. So I think the controls in this game are spot on. It's like everything I wish Alan Wake was in terms of control. This game just perfects it. You can run, you can jump, you can platform, you can fly, you can fight. It feels like you just transform into a superhero, and it feels great. So another part of controls I like to discuss as a subset are the systems and the UI. How do the systems in this game work, and how does the UI help you navigate those systems? So the main thing you're going to be doing is just, an action-adventure shooting game where you control the main character, you're exploring, you're fighting, and that system works great. Exploring works fine. Fighting, getting around, navigation, all of that stuff is very good. The only system in the game that I am not a fan of would be the loot system, where you acquire materials and upgrades for your gun. It gets crazy by the end, where you just have too many and they limit how many you can have, and you just end up like playing inventory Tetris with all of these kind of rather marginal upgrades. So by the end of the game, it's pretty tedious to keep up with these things, and it's just superfluous. But for the most part, all of the systems in this game do what they're expected to do. The skill tree is fun, but again, by the end of this game, you will basically have nearly every skill you can respec, and you can keep leveling up as far as you want to get more and more skills. So it's cool at the start, but it kind of tapers off and becomes less engaging as you go. It's not like it negatively impacts the game massively, but it's not my favorite. I do not care for the loot system. I wish kind of they would overhaul it almost to be like the contemporary stuff that Diablo 4 is doing, that it borrowed from Last Epoch, where you can really fine-tune your gear to eliminate some of the gamba and just double down on what you're trying to do with your build. I think that would be more engaging, but it's a small thing. Now, that being said, how does the UI work? The UI is fine. It's clean, it's intuitive, it explains all of your items very well, and it's great for navigating the amazing amount of lore pieces that you're going to get in the game. So moving from that, let's talk about the story in Control. Does Control have a good story? And well, yes, this is one of the main reasons you play Control, is it's got a fantastic story. It's got so much lore, so many different unique AWEs, altered items, events, things that you get to learn about are awesome. There's carryover with other titles. It's such a cool and unique experience. You get the lore presented in terms of case files, in terms of, audio recordings, videos, visions, all sorts of things. I do have one negative. I don't like the system of having the files have redacted information in them. I get it at first. It's funny, it's like a government, bureaucratic thing where they redact stuff, and it looks like an interesting technique, but reading stuff with things redacted after a long period of time is tiring. I wish that, like, as the director, Jesse could just eventually read everything without any redacting, and it just eliminated it from the game so you could just freely read the files. But whatever, it's fine. That's just me. Maybe other people might not be bothered at all by that, but I found it to be amusing at first and then eventually annoying. But it in no way diminishes the story, because the story is just great and the presentation of it is great. So now let's talk about the visuals in Control. How does this game look? Well, I gotta tell you what, on PS5, this game looks sick. The environments look awesome. They look scary. Everything moves fluidly. The amount of destruction that you can wreak in this office building, is just out of this world. It's very cool art design. You have this kind of weird 1950s and 60s aesthetic with some of the equipment, and yet then it's hyper modern and, computerized sci-fi stuff too. And then it's got supernatural. So the visuals are great. The capture is great. The cutscenes are great. And it's just a tremendous game in terms of how it looks, at least on PS5. Now, what about the audio? So this is another thing Control does really well. The audio is great. The music is great. The sound effects are, out of this world. And the voice acting is tremendous. You get the full package here. The sound effects just keep you on edge, keep you creeped out, keep you engaged throughout. They communicate a lot about what's going on, about when it's safe, when it's not. And they are, screeching strings and weird sounds that are appropriate. The voice acting is very, very good. And any kind of music or whatever is great. There's a particularly awesome musical sequence later in the game that's just, sublime. So I think that the audio in this game is fantastic. So if I take all of those elements, what do I think overall about Control's sense of style? Maybe it achieves in these categories and checks the boxes, but does this game feel like it has a soul, like it has a unique identity and is expressing something artistic? And again, with Remedy stuff and with Control, you don't have to worry about that. This game oozes style. It's got a complete sense of personality. The Bureau is fully developed. All of the different employees, their personalities, the equipment that you wear, the building itself, it is oozing with uniqueness, individuality, cool sense of style, and it is an artistic expression that is certainly something you should experience. So given everything I just said, how would I grade Control? What letter grade would I give it? So I always ground my review first by talking about the Steam reviews and talking about the Metacritic reviews just to provide a baseline. So on Steam, Control Ultimate Edition has 34,000 very positive reviews, and on Metacritic, Control on the PlayStation 5 is at 85 for 31 critics and 8.0 from about 600 users. That's about where I'm at with Control, except I actually bump it up even higher. I really like these kinds of games. I love the X-Files. I love Twin Peaks. I love the Twilight Zone, supernatural stuff like this. And the combat is so slick and smooth that I give Control actually an A-. I would elevate it even higher than Alan Wake. Alan Wake, not like we're comparing or it matters. I like the environment in Alan Wake better. I love the Pacific Northwest. I like the characters, and I like the writing in Alan Wake better. But as a game, it's not as much fun as Control. Control is just it's got a cool story and everything, but then so much of the game is just firing on all cylinders with great gameplay. And so I elevate it slightly above. And I'd love to know what you think of an A- for Control. Where are you at with this game? What would you evaluate it to be? Let me know in the comments below and we can talk about it. But now what I want to do is recommend this game and say, should you buy Control Ultimate Edition? Is this something that you would be interested in? So first of all, if you want to compare it, you kind of drop it in this bucket of course, Alan Wake, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, any of these over-the-shoulder, third-person action shooting games, Max Payne, whatever you want to do. It's in that wheelhouse, but it also combines elements of superhero games because of how powerful you get. So if you like action, adventure, supernatural, this is going to be right up your alley. That little sci-fi, fantasy blend, you've got it. And let's talk about the difficulty factor in Control. Is this a hard game? Are you going to be put off by the difficulty? I don't think you will. Control does a very good job of giving you plenty of what are called control points, which are save points, and you get to be so powerful that even if you die, which I die a lot in this game, I'm not very good at games, and if I can beat this game, you can beat this game. So I don't think this is a prohibitively difficult game on normal difficulty. I struggled with some stuff. Some of the bosses I felt were uneven on difficulty just because they would be asking you to do things that you've never done before in the game, particularly the last boss. But even then, you just learn the patterns, you get better, and you win the fight. So overall, I don't think this is a very challenging game. It's just right in the middle. It's reasonable. You're going to die. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like, oh, this is just, I'm getting cheated. It feels like, okay, I need to get better. I need to do this fight better. I need to optimize and be strategic, and you'll get there. So what about the value of Control Ultimate Edition? I'll tell you what, this game is valued very well. I think it's $40 on Steam. I don't know how much it is on PS5, but at this point, there are these DLCs. There's so many packages that you get with Control that it's a ton of content for $40. So I think it's a very good value. Now let's talk about what do I think about the replayability of Control. Actually, surprisingly, Control has a lot of replayability, and even if you've already beaten the game, at some point they added a bunch of stuff where you could just kind of keep playing, keep leveling up, keep doing quests for Ati and protecting the house as the director, doing these, quests that kind of crop up, temporary quests and things to get stronger, level up, get your ideal build. So there's a lot of replay, and you could try to play it on, of course, harder difficulty levels. So I think the replay is high. So overall, honestly, I recommend Control very easily to anyone who likes action-adventure games and shooter games like Resident Evil. It's right in that wheelhouse. It's super slick. The control is precise and fun, and it's got a great story with tremendous visuals, good music, great writing, and eerie sound effects. So I recommend it without hesitation. So overall, I give this an A-, and I'd love to know what you think about Control. Let me know in the comments below. Have you played it? Are you thinking about playing it? What do you feel about this game? Everyone, I hope you found this review to be useful and fun. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.